Uh, Now, thank you for joining me today on my podcast. Right today, what I'm going to be doing is an over the phone interview with Tony Mannis. Now, he's a motivational speaker for a lot of men's and women's tennis teams throughout the US and college level. He also does a sports weekly, a college sports weekly YouTube channel too, like me. And then he's also appeared with that on the tennis channel talking to have tennis channel call me and introduce my podcast and grow it a little bit better. But yeah, that's wishful thinking on my part. But anyway, uh, as we get into this, he's the women's tennis team for LSU for 21 years, the winningest coach in LSU, 285 wins, 15 NCAA tournament appearances, uh, regional coach of the year. Uh, yeah, yeah, and then coached All Americans. Let's see, 10 All Americans actually, and he led the University of Louisiana in Lafayette to 4 top finishes in. Uh, let's see, it was 25th in 85 and 20th in 86 and 87. It was 18th and 16th in 88. So, but we're going to get into his tennis career. But Tony, thank you for being on my podcast today. I so appreciate it.
Ryan, it's a pleasure having you, man. How things going up there in Minneapolis?
Well, they're going. It's starting to get warm up here, so starting to be able to get out there on the tennis court a little bit more. However, I've been fighting an injury. I actually about 5 weeks ago broke my top part of my arm right below the shoulder, so I've been rehabbing that. So I will be getting out in the court by probably late June, early July.
Okay, well, that's good. It's beautiful in Minneapolis that time of year.
Oh, it is. It is very nice here. As far as that goes. But yeah, now one thing I'm just kind of wondering. I mean, uh, where did you actually grow up? Did you grow up in Louisiana, where you're from, or where you live right now? And this, yeah. I mean, I kind of growing up with the one single court when I kind of grew up when I got into tennis, and it was the one junior high court that they had, and I found a couple of my friends, and we just started all morning, day, and night, and just that's how I started forming my tennis game.
Yeah, I actually grew up here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My father had a passion and love for tennis, and he was actually a part-time coach at Southern University, which is a college I grew up about a mile from my house. But my father was at the university, very, very smart, detailed man. And he actually got me into tennis when I was 7, 8 years old. And I just started playing. And I actually have a younger brother and sister in the sport. So, yeah, we grew up kind of a tennis family. And I started playing junior tournaments when I was 8 and just kind of fell in love with the game.
Oh golly, yeah, that's kind of I kind of started a little later in life. I kind of started about 14 or so, 13, 14, whenever my friends and I started. Well, and mom said, well, you're always around the house. Why don't you find something to do? Well, I found tennis. So, and then it was like, where are you at? I'm on the tennis court all the time. I got to go eat supper, go. I'm out in the court at night until 10 o'clock at night and everything. But that's when the tennis bug hit me. But of course, I kind of grew up I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma myself. So it was kind of a nicer way to play tennis year round in Tulsa. But but with that, it was you could. I mean, I grew up in going to the high school courts back then, which were white cement courts, yellow painted lines, and chain link fences back then. And then you hit with the old guys at the court. And couldn't have had a bunch of better old guys at the court that took the young kids under their wing and to play with them. And us young bucks at the time, we're going to beat these old guys. And boy, did we find out we couldn't play tennis very well.
Yeah, no, yeah. People understand experience and technique and how important it is to develop it and do the right things at a young age.
Oh, absolutely. And then, it was like they would lob us. We didn't realize that how out of shape we were when they started lobbing us and dinking us and everything. And it was like, how in the heck do we beat these guys? It was like but it was what a learning experience for young kids back then, to grow up with those kind of guys. And, go to the court on a Saturday and the whole four courts would be filled with all old guys, and you'd go up there, and if nobody knew anybody, you wouldn't get a court until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But if somebody had to go, hey, come on over or fill in. So you'd fill in with doubles and play doubles up until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, no, that's I spent a decent amount of time in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The NCAA tournament was at University of Tulsa a few years ago, and then we played Tulsa on a home and home basis. I've been in many times.
Oh gosh, yeah, isn't that a nice facility there? The Case Center. Oh my gosh, I got last October I was there, and I got to see tournament going on. Kind of all the college kids that were in a tournament, and boys, there was some beautiful hitting going on. And it was just wonderful. And what a wonderful facility to be able to watch tennis from too.
Yeah, no doubt. They've done a wonderful job there.
And with that, but that's where I kind of grew up, like I said, with Tulsa, and growing up with the courts. And nowadays, the court that I used to play on is long gone and torn up and making a part of the building for my high school, and the court's not going to be there anymore. So but a lot of those courts are kind of gone to disarray, which is when I go back to Tulsa, I go to my stomping grounds of the courts I went to. But it's still kind of sad in a way that I remember the times that we played on these courts, and it just kind of sad in its own respect. But there in Tulsa, what they have is called the La Fortune Tennis Center, which was back in the early 70s. That was the kind of the meeting place for all the tennis tournaments back then in Tulsa, which the main two big ones were the Tulsa World and Tulsa Tribune tournaments. So that's kind of what a lot of people got into, and they had upwards to 1,000 people that were in that tournament and went through all the courts and played at all different courts all around Tulsa just to make up and do the playing back then in the day in the early 70s. But that nowadays that's kind of the hub for everybody to go to, is the La Fortune Tennis Center there in Tulsa.
Yeah. That's good. No, awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's been such a wonderful experience for me, as far as growing up in that kind of environment, and then learning my game that I've had. I've been playing tennis for about over 50 years now, and but your accomplishments. I mean, whenever you got in, how did you get from doing the high school and going into high school and playing probably on tennis and then going to college? How did that happen that you got led into being a head coach for LSU women's tennis?
Well, actually, in juniors, I was very small.
Okay.
I grew. I had a growth spurt when I was about 15 years old. I was 4'11".
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Like 14, 15 years old. In fact, even my buddies now, it's funny. I was known as Little Tony because I was so small. And then I sprouted and hit a growth spurt. And when I sprouted, I ended up becoming a good athlete. And so I was a late developer, and so I ended up, I'll never forget this, I wrote 20 schools while I was a junior, senior in high school. Not one responded. And then the University of Louisiana Lafayette, which was USL at the time, had a top 25 program, and I ended up getting offered a tuition and book scholarship to go to school there. And so my first year, there were a bunch of seniors on the team, and so they ended up redshirting me. And then I ended up, after I changed my forehand, changed some things in my game, and then ended up developing and becoming a really a really good player, throughout the course of my career. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a great opportunity. So my career as a player, so at University of Louisiana Lafayette, we, throughout the course of my career, beat University of Miami, Duke, North Carolina, Ohio State, UCLA, Tennessee, Alabama. We beat all these top. We had a really, really strong team. In fact, our number 1 and 2 players were ranked number 1 in the country in doubles, and our number 1 guy ended up playing the pro circuit and won pretty well on the circuit as well. So that helped me. So I got into coaching shortly after, and then after getting into coaching, I got kind of lucky. I was teaching at a club in Lafayette, Louisiana, and the tennis coach at LSU was having like the best season in the history of the school at the time. And he ended up reaching out to me towards the end of the season saying he was in a bind because the assistant coach had quit.
Oh my gosh.
And so after he left, I ended up assisting him, and he ended up going to Duke, and then they hired me. And I had, though, a little bit of experience because I'd been assistant for Louisiana Lafayette for the men's side for a couple of years, and then I switched to the women.
Oh my! And then that learning curve was already kind of there, being the head men's coach too. So what an experience to have that the tennis coach at the time to reach out to you and then be right at the right place at the right time.
It's total blessing, very lucky and fortunate.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And I have a high school a high school friend of mine, a gal that I grew up with back from elementary, that's her stomping grounds is where you live. And she has now a house in New Orleans too. So I'll shout out to Frances. How you doing, Frances? Yeah, hope you like this interview here. So just kind of a shout out there.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So, but anyway, with that too, with me, it's kind of in my tennis journey too, with growing up and playing as long as I have. I moved here in Minnesota in '88 from Tulsa. So that was just kind of a rude awakening in the wintertime. And it was like, holy, yeah, the wintertime had 6-8 months cold and then 4 months hot. So it was nice and you got out and played when you could during the winter here. But with that, to be able to come here and then playing my tennis in the way I have, and then meeting the people and the tennis people that I've met through the years, they have a wonderful. Now, if you happen to know anybody or like high school kids or things, they have a local tournament here called in Elk River, and it's a summer tournament the last weekend of July. And then the September, they have a mid-September, it's the fall open. And it's the men's open and men's A. And if it's big enough, it's a men's B draw. I'm in the men's A, so I get a lot of these 14, 15, 16-year-old whippersnappers that can hit the ball a ton. And I'm going, what? How did I couldn't hit the ball that hard when I was that young. But if you happen to know any kids, high school kids or anything that are willing to travel and like to play tennis, that's a good tournament to be in. And you can look it up on the internet called Elk River Tennis, and then look at the tournaments, and then it gives you a sign up form, and then you can copy it and then send it in with a draw with what you want to do. So it's really a good tournament to be in.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah.
And with that too, as far as, being that it's kind of come to
Ron, I hate to do this. I mean, can you hold on literally 1 sec? I'm so sorry.
Sure.
This guy just called me. Hold on. I'm sorry, real quick. Hold on.
Okay. So I guess evidently he had a phone call. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian. We're good. Okay. Somebody called me 5 times.
Oh my gosh.
I was worried it was something important, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, but with that too, with me playing too, I've kind of become like showing if I see young kids or people that don't know how to hit the ball very well, but I've played long enough where I can show them a little bit better way to hit the ball. And that's become my like of what I do in showing them how to hit the ball better. And it kind of came to fruition one day at the court. Saw a couple of kids hitting the ball and they were holding the racket all wrong, but they were kind of consistent. So I took the one kid and said, "Hey, hold the racket down here and then start with the short game." And I started hitting a short game with them from the service line to the net, and just consistent hitting a soft game with him. And then his friend came up and I hit a few with him, and then I put the both of them and I said, as long as you guys just don't hit the ball hard, start off with the soft game and the short game over the net, make a game of it, but it'll get you more consistent in learning how to control that racket. And like a couple, 3-4 months later, saw this one of the kids that I helped, and he goes, "You're the guy that helped me." Me and him have been hitting out, and we do that short game for about 40 minutes before we move back, but it's gotten our game a lot more consistent now. And I said, "Well, you see, then you don't shank it off on your third shot. You're keeping it over the net and keeping it consistent." And he goes, we're getting the ball over the net a lot. So kind of made me feel good.
Okay, well, good. Awesome.
With that, but it's so amazing with that. And then how did you come up with, with the concept of doing the YouTube, but then expanding upon with getting on the tennis channel of all things? How did that happen? Because man, I watch the tennis channel a lot when I can get it. And I just have loved that for 10 years plus, in watching all the pros talk, and then the hosts that listening and watching the host talk, and Paul Anacone. And I've had pictures of Paul Anacone and Connors that I've taken over the years. Even Connors played in Tulsa at a Bank of Oklahoma tennis tournament that for 10 years. And I watched him like right up close for 10 years, watching him hit, which was a joy in itself.
Well, yeah. So I actually was approached about would I be interested in hosting a TV show, and we talked about doing something like collegiate tennis. And so we approached the Tennis Channel, and they ended up airing our first 7 shows. At various first show was TCU, second show was Tulane, and so it was good. It was really good. We had a good experience there. And then I've done some shows on a network called Fox College Sports as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's been cool. The shows are very powerful. It's very very good and stuff, and so it's been very exciting.
Oh, I'm sure it has. In order to, and then that's the one thing that I would kind of wish that the Tennis Channel would, like how to reach out to the Tennis Channel, or reach out to anybody that would like to be interviewed by me and just grow my podcast somehow with any kind of a pro or anything, but to get a hold of the Tennis Channel, which would be kind of cool to actually have them interview up and coming podcasters in tennis and how they got started in tennis and have their journey, have Tennis Channel interview them, kind of, in a sense. But that's kind of one of my dreams, in a way.
Okay, interesting. How long have you been doing your podcast?
I've actually, this is episode 118 here, and it's my 3rd year. I'm in my 3rd year with my podcast, and it's been a weekly podcast for 3 years.
Okay, interesting. Well, that's good. Awesome.
Yeah, and then with that too, as far as letting everybody know the aspect of like, subscribe, and comment on the YouTubers out there, and then once it drops on YouTube, then what I do is upload it to the podcasters out there on the radio. So iHeart and everything can hear it. If you're driving down the road, just pull up my podcast and you can hear it as you're driving down the road too. So, like, subscribe, and comment there with everybody. But also what I do too is I do with my podcast here, I do a racket of the week too, of one of my many 250 racket collection that I have, and you'll see the background some of my rackets. But today what I have is a A.G. Spalding racket here. And A.G. Spalding was founded in 1876 and out of Chicago, and by A.G. Spalding and his brother, and it was called A.G. Spalding and Brothers, and it was by Albert Goodwill Spalding from September 2nd, 1849 to September 9th of 1915. So he lived a long time. And then plus being in the sporting good business, he was also a manager and pitcher in a baseball team back in the day too. And he began, and then Spalding actually began back in 1878 with imported rackets that they imported overseas or from overseas, and then they sold them in the U.S. And then back about 1908 is then whenever they decided to design their own racket, and that's whenever they then kind of distributed it within the U.S. and overseas too. With that, one of the sponsor or the autograph, whoever, they sponsor the players that autograph the racket that they use. What actually back then was is Pancho Segura is the endorsed player on this particular Spalding racket here. Still very good shape. It's probably 1950s racket because it still has the little small strings right below the main strings on the bottom main string, and the main top, the main cross string on the top. Those little strings that were really kind of string savers back then, but it's also for spinning the racket too, where it was either not or smooth back then. In the day of the 50s, 40s, 50s, in up until the 60s, I think that's when they finally quit those little tiny strings, and then that's where you got the dampeners back then.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I grew up playing with the Jack Kramer.
Oh yeah, the old Jack Kramer. Definitely so. That's still a pretty good club to hit with too. I have a friend of mine that actually plays with Rossignol wood rackets only. That's all he plays with still is a Rossignol, and he goes out and hits with the old Rossignol rackets. And I've hit with him with the Rossignol. Pretty good racket still for the small head and everything. Makes you concentrate a lot more too.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good.
Yeah, it is. It really does make it good. And then also being Pancho Segura, I mean, he was born in 1921, and then it was like June, and then back he passed away 2017 in November. But 96 years old is how long he lived too. So he kind of grew up in the small Ecuador family, kind of a hardship through his family life, but early success. He won the NCAA singles championship, and then 3 years in a row from 43 to 45 back then. That's kind of how he started with his success with playing that. And it's just amazing that that's where he kind of started gaining popularity in his play. But then he was also barnstormed with some of the leading players back then, like Tilden and Gonzalez and all of those guys, and learned his game through barnstorming, and then finally became the professional career in 1947. He became pro, and then with that became a then seasoned good player in the 50s and 60s back then. And then, of course, he went on to coach and mentor. Of course, we all know the synonymous name with the T2000, Jimmy Connors, back in the day. which that would be a really good get for me on my podcast, but who knows how to do that. But anyway, that's a dream too. But with that, that's where he was kind of the mentor and becoming a coach. And then the legacy that Segura passed on to everybody, it affected a lot of different tennis pros and many tennis stars after his passing, his coaching style and everything like that. But anyway, you podcasters out there, if you take a look at the racket, be sure to go to my YouTube tennis channel, Tennis Volley Talk, like, subscribe, and comment for you YouTubers out there. I do appreciate it. And that was the racket of the week there for you. So, that's kind of what I do, and kind of give you the history of those rackets and the age of those rackets, which I like doing, and doing the research too on that. Because some people don't even know that they even exist, and then the history of the A.G. Spalding, such a history that they had too.
Yeah, no, it's true. That was interesting to listen to you talk about it.
Yeah, so it's just such an amazing sport that you and I both got into, and you've taken it to such a high level. So it's just so fun to hear people's tennis story and how they got started, and their life within tennis, and how much it's enriched their life to play tennis like we've been able to over the years.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely. Yeah.
And always welcome to, if you have anybody out there that would like to be called, like to have interviewed, be sure and float, give me, text me the name and everything, and I'd be more than happy to call them an interview too.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
This is really kind of what my podcast kind of is. Kind of a grassroots tennis podcast. Yes, I do get into some of the tournaments out there, like now the French Open going on in the third round, and some great play being played. But it kind of has turned into such a grassroots tennis of talking to different people, and with able to talk to some people out there lived in Texas, and guy has made a red clay tennis court in his backyard. Which was amazing in itself, and talked to him and did an interview with him. But it's the grassroots of tennis that my podcast has kind of gotten into, even though I would like to get a pro or something to interview, but that's hopeful thinking and wishful thinking, and hopefully something someday that will happen. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. Yeah.
So with that, it's just a joy to have this sport that we have, and keeping it up. And then it must be pretty nice there in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, where you're at. Is it getting pretty warm there too?
It is 90 degrees.
Oh boy, nice and humid too, I'm sure.
And not tennis weather. It's we're about to hit the intensity of heat and humidity for the summer. So,
oh my gosh, you can only play like either early morning.
They deal with the cold, we deal with the heat down here.
Oh gosh, yeah, it can get that hot here, but not that often. It's pretty nice weather, pretty much when it gets warm. But Tony, I so appreciate you being and giving me your tennis story on how it began for you, and just talking to you and learning so much as far as your teachings and that you do and what you do, and go out and talk to all the college kids and the tennis colleges all over, and just give them the insight of what you've learned, and how to get them to play better and all that. It is just so wonderful to have your story, and I so appreciate you being here with me today on Tennis Volley Talk.
My pleasure, absolutely.
So, and then if you ever feel like, or if you want to, if I can hit you with another podcast and talk to you at some point in time if you want to do that. But then again, keep me in mind with some names that I could definitely love to call and interview them for their tennis journey that they had too. So I've always loved doing that.
No, for sure. No, definitely keep in mind with everything. Yeah, I appreciate your time. I hope you have any other questions or.
Well, I mean, other than that, if not really any other kind of questions, I was just kind of covering everything well, kind of basically, I mean, with the college circuit that you go to and do the speaking, is it just kind of like how to play better with them, or do they kind of get the concept of the seminars that you do, or just the inside of tennis and how to hit the ball better or show them how to hit, or is it just the mental part of the game? Whenever you're talking to them,
a little bit of everything, but I focus a lot on the mental part.
Oh, the mental part, yeah. I found myself kind of wondering in between points at my age now. I'm going, when is he going to serve? And then he serves, and it's an ace. I'm going, why did I go for it? Because my brain says go for it, and it doesn't go. So.
Yeah, no, for sure, no, but I do a lot with the mental part. I think that's underserved part of tennis, but it's becoming, if you look at a lot of the professional athletes in all sports have work on the mental part of their game. So I think it's something that I've been doing now for a few years, and it's actually worked out really good.
Oh, that must be exciting in itself to go all over different campuses like that, all over. So wonderful. To be able to talk to the young, and of course they're in it because they got the tennis bug too, so they're in it to win it anyway. So that's the nice thing about it, because you have those minds that are in it to win it for tennis. So in a sense,
great. Well, Brent, I appreciate your time.
I so appreciate your time too, Tony, and thank you again for joining me on Tennis Volley Talk.
Okay, awesome. You take care.
All right, you too. That was it. It was such a good interview, so I appreciate it very much. And everybody out there, I'll see you I'll see you or talk to you next week. I'll see what I can come up with. So everybody out there, have a good week of tennis, and like, subscribe, and comment. For you YouTubers and new podcasters, if you want to take a look at the racket, go to my YouTube tennis channel, Tennis Volley Talk, and take a look at the racket that I was talking about. So thank you. Have a good week, everybody.